10 a.m. in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, November 1st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it is mostly cloudy, 11 degrees. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The back-to-work legislation that the Ford government invoked was the wrong move. That's according to John Fraser, Liberal MPP for Ottawa South. Fraser tells Wake Up with Rob Snow that the government moved too quickly by invoking the notwithstanding clause and sent the wrong signals.
When you infringe on bargaining rights, the courts rule against it. We know that it happens. There's a balance here, and so it's not a get out of jail free card when you feel like not respecting people's charter rights.
And Fraser says on this issue, the government needs to take leadership and get a deal done with QP as soon as possible. So what will happen at the local schools if we see a strike on Friday? City News reporter Chris Curries has the story.
Schools in the Ottawa Catholic School Board are set to completely close on Friday and move to remote learning if unionized education workers go on strike, saying it would not be safe to operate in class without them. There are 2,000 full and part-time employees represented by QP. Ottawa's two French boards monitoring the situation. Both have only a few hundred employees. Upper Canada District School Boards will be closed to students with preparations ongoing for remote learning, while Ottawa's largest board, the Carleton District School Board, will not be affected. Chris Curries, City News.
And here's your weather forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Any fog will dissipate this morning. Cloudy, showers, drizzle, mainly though for the morning. Continuing mild with a guaranteed high 16 degrees. We'll drop to about 4 for the low. Still above average though. The average low is +1. Sunshine tomorrow 15. For today, the guaranteed high 16.
City News time is 10:02. So-called Freedom Convoy organizer Chris Barber is now testifying at the public inquiry into the federal government's use of the Emergencies Act. He's expected to explain and detail the conception of the weeks-long demonstrations that gridlocked Ottawa streets last winter. Barber and the other convoy organizers, Tamara Leach and Pat King, are all facing criminal charges related to their involvement in the protest. And starting today, Ontarians 6 months and older can receive a flu shot. You can book an appointment for the shot at your local pharmacy, healthcare provider, or public health unit. The province does recommend receiving the flu shot as we head into the colder months. OPH says if you're eligible, you can book your flu shot and COVID-19 bivalent shot at the same time. And our brother mother, whose son was the last Canadian soldier killed in Afghanistan, has been named this year's Silver Cross Mother by the Royal Canadian Legion. Master Corporal Brian Graff was killed by a suicide bomber in October 2011 while working as a military trainer. Kenny Graff says she feels a bond with all the mothers who have lost children in service to Canada.
I believe we're connected. Unfortunately, in a way, and we understand their pain, but I'm honored to be able to stand tall and place that wreath in Ottawa on Remembrance Day on behalf of all of them.
And Byron Graff was the 158th Canadian soldier to die in Afghanistan before the mission ended in 2014. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. Of course, it is November the 1st. Boy, oh boy, time is just flying. We have a very busy show for you today. Hope everybody had a great and safe Halloween last night. We're going to be speaking with a number of different community members today, including Meg McCallum, Executive Director for the Alliance to End Homelessness here in Ottawa. We're also going to spend some time today with Stephen Clark, National Executive Director for the Royal Canadian Legion. And Ben Wise is going to be here. He's fantastic. He's from the Historical Society of Ottawa. and he always shares something so interesting about the history of Ottawa. We look forward to that again today. And on the Lunch with Sam, we're going to have lunch today with Andrew Brander and Jody Middick talking about the news of the day, and certainly it is not shy on news today. It's a very busy one. We'll be following a number of different stories for you today. We wanted to kick off November talking about Movember. We're joined now by Scott Williams. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Sam. Happy Movember 1st.
Happy Movember 1st to you. Ottawa Professional Firefighters Charities Chair and Movember Ambassador. What does Movember mean to you, Scott?
Movember is all about changing the face of men's health. It's a very important thing. We've been doing it for 16. Well, Movember's been around for 16 years, and our association, the Ottawa Professional Firefighters, have been heavily involved for the last 3 years because men's health issues are very important to us. They're very important because there's 1 in 9 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. 3 out of 4 suicides around the world are men. Every minute, a man dies by suicide globally, and those are very distressing facts, and we want to step up to the challenge.
I appreciate that, Scott. 2 very important topics. I lost my father to prostate cancer, so obviously very important to our family, and it's certainly an important conversation as well, talking about suicide. We know that this time has been so difficult on so many. When you think about Movember and think about all the things that men face these days, it's hard sometimes, Scott, for men to reach out for help. Would you agree?
I agree that historically we've been told, raised, and had messaging that say you have to be the strong one, you have to be the tough one, put on a brave face. My family, my father's side came from England during World War II. They grew up with the stiff upper lip type mentality, and asking for help is difficult. But I think over time we have been slowly changing that. We've had initiatives in our fire service, spearheaded by our management team and also by our union to say, look, if you need help, please reach out. We have peer support now who are there for us. So we're just slowly chipping away at that you're not weak. You're actually strong for recognizing that you need help.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. And, you add the layer of first responder on top of all that, Scott, and I can only imagine that, some people just feel like you're almost superhuman.
We do have that in the back of our heads on occasion when we're going into these really crazy situations and people are looking to us to rectify it. And then afterwards, the community members thanking you, patting you on the back, telling you that you've done such a great job. So sometimes that does play in your mind, but we do definitely recognize that mental health is such a big deal. PTSD is a very major topic for first responders, and it's finally getting the recognition it deserves. Mm-hmm. And cancer is a huge issue for firefighters in general, just because of our exposure to toxic industrial chemicals and all sorts of different nasty stuff that is burning in your average home these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really scary stuff there. I know someone passed away recently, and even though he hadn't served for a while, he was recognized as passing away in the line of duty because of all those toxins he experienced over many, many years.
Absolutely, and so we're slowly working to change that. And Movember is helping lead the way. They've been doing this for 16 years. They've paved the way for us, starting out with just growing mustaches, and it's morphed into a global phenomenon. It started in Australia, and it's now morphed to a global phenomenon where they've actually been able to help fund over 1,200 men's health projects around the world. Almost 300 are here in Canada. The best thing anyone can do is to sign up at Movember.com and support the movement. You can grow for Movember. You could, if you don't want to grow, or if you can't grow a mustache for Movember, you can move for Movember. And so personally, I've challenged myself to grow a stash and also to run 120 kilometers this month.
Wow, that's amazing. Are all the firefighters joining in on the fun and growing a mustache?
We have, last year we had a huge amount of firefighters grow mustaches. This year, we're still having our members sign up at this moment. Some have told me that their wives have ixnayed the mustache this year, but there are all sorts of other ways you can participate. As I said, you can move. You can also just choose your own adventure for Movember, and as long as you're doing something and helping to raise funds, you're helping advance men's health, men's mental health, and women are very important in this too, because everyone has, as you said, your father, there as a father, a brother, an uncle that we care about, and we just need to push forward to address these issues.
Scott, how much are you hoping to raise personally?
Well, Movember is very personal to myself as well, since my father just went through a prostate cancer treatment. My grandfather had prostate cancer, and I personally lost some friends to suicide. So I'm hoping to raise at the minimum $500. I'm hoping my shift of, I have 4 people on my personal team. I'm hoping that we raise $1,000, and I hope our association at minimum raises $5,000. Last year we raised $15,000, which was amazing. This year I don't like to set targets too high that we can't achieve, but I like to blow the targets out of the water. So those are our goals.
I know it's just November 1st, but have you raised anything yet towards the 500?
Yeah, we're actually already at $342. So we're, as I said, the goals are nice, so they're achievable, and then we can just blow them out of the water.
That's fantastic. And we can reach out to you through the Movember site, I'm assuming. It's such a great website. They've done a great job.
Yes, you can just type in the team Ottawa Fire Charities, and you can find us there. Ottawa Fire Movember is another way. You just go onto the Movember site, search the team, and you can make a donation to Ottawa firefighters raising funds for Movember. And
does this, I know how tight the team is in terms of firefighting. You spend a lot of time together. Is this just another way to sort of, join together and do something great for the community and for those personal reasons as well? Is this a part of team building as well for you?
Absolutely. So this is great team building, since we all have a laugh at our stashes as they grow in. It's quite funny at the beginning stages for everybody, and everyone complaining about their itchy upper lip. But no, it is amazing team building, and that's what the firefighters are about. That's what our association members are about, is team building and giving back to the community. We love to give back. Movember is yet one of the many ways we give back. We have our annual CHIO donation coming up in December, not to get ahead of ourselves, but we are always involved in the community, and our association is very heavily invested in our great city of Ottawa. So yet another thing we do for charity here.
Did you always want to be a firefighter, Scott?
As a matter of fact, the answer is yes. I was a small child. There was a big incident on the street I was growing up in, and I remember seeing the firefighters and just being amazed at what they were doing. Mm-hmm. When no one else knew what to do, the firefighters were taking charge and making everyone safe, and it was just an experience that really stuck with me for the rest of my life.
Well, that's fantastic, and I want to wish you all the best on your campaign. And I'm going to go on and make a $100 donation towards your month of fundraising on behalf of and in memory of my father. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Scott Williams joining us, Ottawa Professional Firefighters Charities Chair and Movember Ambassador. It's been a pleasure to spend time with Scott today. We're going to be spending some time with Nadia Ross when we come back, Artistic Director of Stowe Union. There's a big show happening in Wakefield. We're going to tell you all about it. Great guests for you coming up. You won't want to go anywhere on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
I don't care what the law is. I will never be a slave. That word, I hate it. It rests on my tongue like rot.
Peter, how does it feel to get paid for your work?
There are rumors freedom's coming for us all.
Freedom, you know that's all I want.
Chloe, careful. Real men would rather sell you across the river to America than let you go free.
Then I'll run.
I've run before. Maybe this time for good.
Just get her into a boat. No!
Chloe! Chloe, no!
Word of Chloe Cooley's resistance led to Canada's first legislation limiting slavery. After 200 years, slavery was abolished in Canada in 1834.
From coast to coast, all across Canada, there's something very special going on. It's time to show your support. Time to spread the word. Time to demonstrate your commitment to safe and sober driving. Join thousands of Canadians and tie a ribbon on something or someone you love. And take the time to have a real conversation about impaired driving. Mad Project Red Ribbon. Tie it, wear it, show it, share it, live it. Find out more at mad.ca.
Little brown girl, little brown girl.
Hey, I'm Picasso in Von Teef. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on Rogers TV and City News. We wanted to head to the beautiful community of Wakefield and check in with Nadia Ross. Hi, Nadia.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You're the artistic director for Stowe Union. What's happening in Wakefield?
Well, we are throwing a kind of gathering celebration event where people can come and go as they please. It's over the course of 4 days, and it's always changing with different artists and different musicians and different stories. And at the heart of it, we are celebrating the power of the arts to help us heal, help us move on in life, help us to imagine new futures.
Well, all that sounds fantastic. What are the dates, Nadia?
The dates, it starts this Thursday, November 3rd, and goes on Friday the 4th, Saturday the 5th, and Sunday the 6th.
Fantastic. Where can we get lots of details about the artists?
Yes, you can go onto the Stowe Union website. That's STOUNION.com. And you go under Wakefield Out Loud, and that will show you what's happening. There's a lot of things happening in all the different spaces in the Wakefield Center. We sort of take over the space, and a lot of opportunities for interaction, to do art yourself, or to just sit and contemplate and listen to some beautiful music and see some beautiful projections. And all of it, again, is free, and you can come and go as you please and come back often because it's always going to be different.
And Nadia, is this your first year doing this?
Yeah, well, this is sort of a unique experience because of what we've been through in the last 2.5 years. So, this is really, a response to that, in a way. It's, a lot of people have gone through a really hard time. I mean, we just have to admit it, but the way forward is not to just put things on the shelf and ignore them, because you keep putting things on the shelf, that shelf is going to fall, So, what there is to do is to help ourselves move through is art can be a real tool. Art can really help you. The imagination can really bring consolation and also new ideas. And so we celebrate the arts and the power of the arts to do that after what's been quite a challenging 2.5 years.
For sure. I think about when we first, went into lockdowns, March of 2020, so many of us turned to books and to movies and to music and even doing art at home as a way of sort of passing time and to your point, sort of trying to heal through all of this. Why is art so important to us, Nadia, from your perspective?
Oh my gosh, art is the fruit of our imagination. It's one of the fruits of our imagination. And the imagination is this beautiful space where anything can happen. I mean, you see it in children. They just go into their imagination and you can see it. They're in this other world. And the other day I was walking through the artist studio, which I'm a part of in Farlton, called Place des Artistes de Farlton. And I opened the door and there was an artist painting. And he's an older man and he was in that space too. He looked completely taken over. And so it takes you away from your troubles and presents you with other possibilities while you're away. So when you come back to the real world, you have new ideas and you're kind of refreshed and able to sort of face things from new perspectives. And so that's one of the great powers of art.
That's beautifully said, Nadia. Thank you so much. I'm really hoping that you have a great turnout. It's such a beautiful part of the country. I spent a lot of my childhood up in Wakefield, and it was certainly some great memories still. Even every time I come down that hill and into Wakefield, it all comes rushing back. And I hope you enjoy all that wonderful art this weekend, and of course all the connections with community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I hope to see everyone there.
Look forward to it. Nadia Ross joining us, Artistic Director for Stowe Union. Lots of great information. That's Wakefield, Out Loud Wakefield, in the beautiful area of Quebec there, which is a beautiful time to be heading up there. We wanted to head to Queen's Park right now. We're going to be taking you there now.
Support the Sick Kids Foundation for their new hospital and patient support buildings. We hope that more children will get better treatments and live their happy lives they deserve. I'm extremely proud of Speed Stars and Saturn Drives for organizing this event. This highly appreciated event took place in our downtown Markham, where we celebrate Canada Day on July 1st, and now showcase some of the world's greatest sports cars and classics. That afternoon, I saw many cars lovers with their own whole family come and enjoy.
We were heading to Queen's Park. We were hoping to hear some of the discussion regarding the potential strike that's happening on Friday. We're going to be following this story very closely. They have gone to another item on the agenda, so we're going to step out of that. We're going to step into the Emergencies Act inquiry. Chris Barber is testifying. We're going there now.
I was told that was a previous post 2 years prior, something to do with an Indigenous standoff.
And during this conversation, we were also aware that the media was reporting on a video that in which Mr. King had made a suggestion that at some point Justin Trudeau may catch a bullet one day. Were you aware of that?
I recall something about that, yes.
Do you remember if that was something you knew about during this discussion, or after this discussion did you learn more about what Mr. King had posted?
I believe it might have been after.
Okay. So it says in here in the second sentence, Chris agreed.
We're listening to Chris Barber, if you remember, one of the organizers for the so-called Freedom Convoy. They're speaking about Pat King, one of the other organizers of the so-called Freedom Convoy. We're heading back there now.
Possibly division inside the convoy. Pat brought a certain following with. I don't remember the extent of anything after that. We discussed sending him home, and obviously he didn't.
Was the concern that if Mr. King was sent home or asked to not participate, that his supporters would also stop participating?
That would have been a good guess, yes.
So if we can continue on, the next sentence talks about it says, talked to Pat about the tweet on the roadside. Do you see that?
Yes.
Was that the conversation you had already described to us?
Yes.
Okay. And were you a part of that conversation?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And then it says, following this, a captain's meeting was held in Kenora, and at the end of the day, where everyone expressed concern about Pat King's involvement.
Slow down thing.
Yes, thank you. That's right. The decision was made that someone would talk to Pat within the coming days and request that he not attend in Ottawa. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question about these two sentences, but before I do that, can you just explain what a captain's meeting is?
We had road captains involved in approximately 2 road captains per province to organize the trucks. Those were the people that the people from that province could go to with concerns or issues. So we had a number of road captains within the convoy.
And it sounds in here like after your initial conversation with Mr. King that concerns continued to be raised by other members of the organization. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if someone ultimately spoke with Mr. King and asked him not to attend in Ottawa?
Possibly. I wasn't involved in that conversation.
At any point, did you hear from Ms. Leach or anyone else about whether that conversation had occurred?
Not to my recollection, I don't.
And Mr. King continued on to Ottawa?
Yes, he did.
Were you aware of any resolution having been reached between the people who had concerns and Mr. King?
I believe whatever happened, it worked itself out to the point where Pat stayed with the convoy.
Were you personally concerned about what Mr. King had said previously on social media?
I don't believe it was a concern. He explained to me that it was taken out of context and edited to make him sound worse than it was. I took him for his word on it. So you accepted the explanation at the time? Yes.
Do you today still believe that, do you still accept that explanation?
I believe Pat had all the right reasons and a good heart.
So I'm going to pull up another document. This is COM 50902.
We wanted to bring you some of the Emergencies Act inquiry today. That was Chris Barber. If you remember, Chris Barber, Tamara Leach, and of course Pat King, 3 of the faces of the so-called Freedom Convoy. Chris Barber is testifying today. We're going to bring you a little bit of that as we sort of continue on about the day. You'll want to lock it in and stay with us here all day on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Hi, my
My name is Arkantel and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, November 1st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it is mostly cloudy, 12 degrees, and here's what's making news this hour. Chris Barber, one of the leaders of the trucker convoy protest, has taken the stand at the public inquiry looking into the federal government's use of the Emergencies Act last winter. Barber said he got involved in the protest because he was angry and had had enough with the COVID-19 mandates. He told the commission that initially the purpose of the protest was to get the federal government to listen to their concerns about cross-border vaccine mandates for truck drivers. And we hear from other organizers of the protest, Tamara Litch and Pat King, later in the week. Meanwhile, also happening this hour in Ottawa, lawyers for the Commission and the province of Ontario are before a judge to debate whether or not Premier Doug Ford and former Solicitor General Sylvia Jones should be compelled to testify at the inquiry. Ford and Jones are claiming parliamentary privilege as the reason they should not be ordered to take questions. But the Commissioner believes the court should dismiss the application, saying they have overstated that privilege. And there's less than a day left to participate in the Distress Centre of Ottawa's 50-50 draw. The money raised will be used to benefit the overall operation of the volunteer-driven charity. They offer free round-the-clock phone, text and chat support to people in need, and the draw is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. City News time is 10:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's that time of year when we start thinking about the holidays. We start thinking about winter coming, which means the flu. Shodi Ghani knows that all too well. Ottawa pharmacist and owner of Shoppers Drug Mart in both Canada and Melville Road. Hi, Shodi.
Good morning, Sam. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, this has been obviously a very challenging couple of years for so many, and we know that obviously COVID-19 has been top of mind, and the flu maybe not so much, but we're hearing that we're going to have a heck of a flu season this year. Give us some sense of what you're hearing.
You are 100% true on that, because looking at the Australian data, which usually we use as a predictor for the data here in North American countries, they are having a hell out of a bad flu season. And if you add this to the fact that in the past couple of years, because of all the COVID measures, we didn't expose ourselves much to the flu virus. So I think that the flu season will not pass us by this year.
And let's talk a little bit about what that means in terms of those COVID vaccinations that we've been encouraged to get and the flu vaccinations. A lot of people, from what I understand, Shodi, you can correct me if I'm wrong, decided not to get flu shots in the last couple of years, but did get the COVID shot. Is that correct?
That's unfortunately true, but it is completely different viruses. So if you had the COVID shot, it won't definitely protect you from the flu and vice versa. So this is why Canadians need to roll up their sleeve and do it early and get their flu shot, because it's completely different virus.
And who's eligible, Shodi, for the flu shot?
Starting today, everybody is basically eligible for it. In the past couple of weeks, we started with selected high-risk population, but November 1st marked the first day that people of any age can go and get their flu shots. And it's very easy. So all you need to do is either to book an appointment on PC app, or go to shoppersdrugmart.ca/flu, book your appointment, and then the pharmacist will be giving you the shot. And while you're there, it's also a good opportunity to talk about your COVID vaccination to make sure that you also updated on that regard.
Mm-hmm. And are we allowed to take them on the same day? Are we allowed to get COVID vaccination the same day as we're getting that flu shot?
That's actually a very important question because, yes, for most of the patient, you will be able to get both of the shots in two different arms in the same setting. That applies for anybody above the age of 11. Between 5 and 11, and out of abundance of precaution, it is recommended to gap them by 2 weeks. But for everybody else, you can safely get both of your shots in the same setting.
Okay. And for the little ones, what's the earliest age we can get that flu shot?
In Ontario, in pharmacies, the minimum age of giving the flu shot in pharmacies now is 2 years old instead of 5 years old. So anybody who's with kids as young as 2 years old can go to Shoppers Drug Mart Pharmacy and then get their kids vaccinated.
And remind us, Shodi, like in terms of the flu, what are some of the differences in terms of symptoms over COVID-19? How do we know the difference?
So both of them share a number of symptoms like fever, fatigue, and dry cough is shared. We usually find that COVID will have more shortness of breath, sometimes the loss of smell and loss of taste sensation, or some gastric symptoms like diarrhea and eye inflammation. But there is a lot of common symptoms between both of them.
And it's really interesting because, as you mentioned, if Australia is getting it bad, typically it means that we are going to get it as well. And it can sometimes really go through a household, right, Shodi, and really affect different family members in different ways.
And this is the most important reason why people should be considering this, because when you get the flu shot, you're not only protecting yourself, it's basically protecting your loved one. You're protecting the vulnerable people in the community. So it's basically a kind of social responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And does it mean when we get the flu shot, this might be kind of a silly question for you because you're brilliant, but does it mean when we get the flu shot that it means we won't get the flu, or we just will get a version of it that isn't as impactful, if you will?
So it all depends on the how much is the match between the virus in the vaccine and the circulating virus. But at the end of the day, in a good year, it will be up to 90% protection. But even if the percentage is not as high, getting the flu shot is basically the best tool in the arsenal to protect against the flu.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting. I mean, this last couple of years, I think there's one group that hasn't got the love that they deserve, and I think that's pharmacy workers and pharmacists. So many of us really went to you when there was nowhere else. It felt like there was nowhere else to go, and you played such an important role. Have you all sort of realized how impactful that has been over the last couple of years that so many of us turned to you?
It is actually, because what we are doing now is completely different from what we used to do 2 years ago. But again, basically, it is basic utilization of what we can do. We can serve our communities in a number of ways. And giving us all these tasks showed the Canadian and gave us a personal boost that we can help improving Canadian life.
Absolutely. You do a great job, Shodi. Really appreciate your time, and I'm hoping that we all get vaccinated so we don't see that flu run rampant across this country. I know we're going to book our shots today, Shodi, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Shodi Ghana joining us, of course, Ottawa pharmacist and owner of Shoppers Drug Mart, both in Canada and Merivale Road. Very, very busy person, of course. When we come back in a little bit, Barbara Cartwright's going to join us. She's the CEO of Humane Canada. We're going to be talking about the effects of domestic violence has on household pets. We're going to be speaking to her about that. As you know, the Emergencies Act inquiry at the end of the day has to answer the question, was the Emergencies Act warranted or not, to be put into place in February of 2022. The inquiry's been going on. We've seen a number of different people come to the table in terms of testifying. We are now heading back there to hear from Chris Barber, one of the organizers of the so-called Freedom Convoy.
And we're going to watch it in its entirety, and then I'll have some questions flowing from it.
Hey guys, convoy related issues right now, and I just want to get this out there.
This convoy to Ottawa next week on Sunday is a peaceful protest. Anybody that joins this protest or this convoy from either coast to coast is to adhere to the rules of the convoy. And I am dead serious. If anybody fucks with them, they are out. Emergency vehicles have the right of way. When the lights are flashing, we pull over and they
So
are.
we are listening to the testimony from the Emergencies Act, and I apologize for the strong language there. We are going in and out of this testimony, and sometimes we just don't know what we're going to get. So we are listening to some of that testimony right now. Chris Barber is on the stand right now. I think we're going to go out of this, guys. There's too much strong language for us right now. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. We're playing a number of different videos and sharing different text messages that were between the different organizers of the so-called Freedom Convoy. So we want to make sure that we bring some of that to you, but we don't want that strong language here on City News. So we appreciate that very much. When we come back, we're going to speak with Barbara Cartwright, of course, as I mentioned, CEO of Humane Canada. We're also going to speak a little bit later with Meg McCallum. She's the executive director of the Alliance to End Homelessness here in Ottawa. We're going to be talking about how we can combat homelessness. We know that this was top of mind during the mayoral campaign in particular, because a number of mayoral candidates came out and said, Catherine McKenney, for instance, came out and said, I can solve homelessness within 4 years, or, we can put different things in place to try and combat homelessness. This is a big, big file. We know Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe has this on his mind as well. And anybody that has been in the downtown core, if you live there, if you work there, you know and you see what's happening in the downtown core. I mean, I worked in homelessness for over, close to a decade, and it has definitely increased. I mean, I can see it even when I head downtown. So we want to talk to Meg McCallum about some of the plans that they have in place for that. We're also going to speak with Stephen Clark. We know Stephen Clark, National Executive Director for the Royal Canadian Legion, is going to be joining us today. We're going to be talking about the Silver Cross Mother. We're also going to be talking about all of those plans for remembrance. We've just received some breaking news we want to share with you. The Toronto Stock Exchange has halted trading while it deals with a technical issue. It says trading has stopped for the TSX, the TSXV, and Alpha markets while it works to fix the problem. So we will be following this story. I can't even imagine what this would be like for the TSX right now and the Toronto Stock Exchange dealing with this type of technical issue. We don't have any details about this technical issue, but we will be following this very, very closely. Lots of news happening today in our city for sure. And of course, across the country. Ben Wise is going to be spending time with us. He's the Historical Society of Ottawa representative. We'll be talking about this week in Ottawa history. Always brings us some interesting topics. And Andrew Brander is going to join us, Vice President of Crestview Strategy, and Jody Middick, former City Councillor for Innis Ward. They're going to be joining us for Lunch with Sam. And Lunch with Sam is all the great topics we're going to feast on today, include the Ontario lawmakers being up before dawn today, talking about the time-sensitive bill that would impose a 4-year contract on education workers represented by CUPE. So we're going to be speaking about that. We're going to be obviously speaking about the Emergencies Act inquiry. That is very, very busy today. The deadline for childcare operators in Ontario to opt into the national $10 a day program is today. And we've talked a lot about this over the last little bit. Some childcare operators were deciding not to opt in for various reasons. So it's going to be really interesting there. We're also going to talk about credit card balance. We understand from Equifax Canada that the average Canadian credit card balance hit a record high at the end of September. Is this really a surprise, though, knowing what's happening in a number of families when it comes to inflation, it comes to the rising price of, well, let's just say everything? It is very, very challenging on families. And, of course, we're going to speak about Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day, of course, coming up on November 11th, Friday, November the 11th. A number of ways to remember the men and women that have sacrificed so much in this country. We're also going to head to Mont Ste. Marie and speak with Bob Sutterman. He is the owner of Mont Ste. Marie. We're going to talk about how they're preparing for this winter season. Lots to talk about here on City News. You want to stay with us? Lock it in.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
I did it. I need it.
Here, I gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll introduce you to a local singer-songwriter who has some exciting things happening. First of all, he just recently went to Nashville to perform. He won a contest of about 20,000 songs. He also has over 100,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. The Ottawa Food Bank will be here. They'll tell us about the increase in their services and food demand. And we'll introduce you to a couple of upcoming events here in Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Little brown girl, little brown girl.
Hey, I'm Picasso in Vontief. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
We have some breaking news out of Toronto we want to share with you. The Toronto Stock Exchange has halted trading shortly after the opening bell today due to a technical issue. The TMX Group, which operates the exchange, says trading has stopped for the TSX, the TSXV, and Alpha markets. TMX says it's experienced a connection issue with the TSX order entry symbol range M to S. It says that it's investigating the issue and will provide updates. When calling the number listed on the TMX Group's website, a message says the market is in a pre-open state. Trading will remain halted until further notice. If you're just joining us, the breaking news is the Toronto Stock Exchange has halted trading shortly after the opening bell today due to a technical issue. We'll be following this very closely here on City News. You'll definitely want to stay with us. If we receive any information about it opening, we'll definitely bring it to you. And if any updates occur during the day, we'll definitely bring you up to date right away. We wanted to spend some time today with Barbara Cartwright, CEO of Humane Canada. Hi, Barbara.
Good morning, Sam. How are you?
Good. Barbara, thanks so much for spending time. We talk about a lot of different issues, you and I, and I think over the years, I think we've touched on pretty much all of the, the work that you're doing. One that I wanted to bring to the attention of everyone at City News today is really the combination of domestic violence and household pets. As you know, Barbara, I put a lot of focus on this show on domestic violence and trying to ensure that women are safe. But unfortunately, what I'm hearing, and you can give us some details, is that a lot of these abusers hold the lives of their pets over the people they're abusing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I know we share heartbreak in when our love of our pets makes us more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those cases where it's known as coercive control, where an abuser will use something in order to control the victim. And unfortunately, that's often a family pet, because of the love between the woman and her pet. Often, especially in situations of interpersonal violence, the animal is a primary source of emotional support. Right. And the abusers know that. And so the threat to keep the victim under control can range from just that, a threat. It can range into withholding food, withholding medical care, all the way up to abuse and to murder of the animal in order to control the women and often to control children as well.
Oh, that's just, that breaks my heart. It makes me sick to my stomach at the same time. Barbara, what role does Humane Canada have in combating this?
Well, for about 7 years now, Humane Canada has been working to bring forward the understanding of the violence link both into our legal system and into our social safety net system, because both of those systems, in the past, animals were virtually unseen. And so we've made it one of our top priorities as the representatives of humane societies and SPCAs who see this all the time, to really make sure that our government and that our social service providers understand that there is a link between domestic violence and animal violence, and that by addressing it, it's an area where we might both reduce violence against women and violence against animals. And so we work to get it into legislation. So, for example, now in our Divorce Act, it lists animal abuse as a form of family violence. That's a really important step forward. We were also able to get our bestiality laws updated, and for it to include that when somebody is convicted of bestiality, they go on the sex offender registry list, so that we recognize that often bestiality and particularly child sexual assault happen at the same time or concurrently. And then we've been working on getting violence link training for the judiciary, which we got into a recent bill, Bill C3. And now we're working on the idea of how do we get coercive control recognized and that animals are used in coercive control. And so that's the legislative side. But equally importantly, at the same time, we need to be working on the social safety net. And so we have a program right now working with stakeholders across the country to better support pet-owning women who are safety planning and trying to leave. Because we know from the data coming out of the University of Windsor, about 56% of women delay leaving because they don't know what to do about their animals. Mm-hmm. They don't want to leave them behind with their abuser. They want to bring them with them, but our social safety net doesn't really recognize that. And so how do we make sure that when a woman is safety planning and she's making calls, that she's getting the support she needs to bring her pets with her? Because the other terrifying thing, Sam, is that of the women that do leave and have to leave their pets behind, about a third report going back to live again with the abuser to protect their animals or to go and check in on the safety of the animals. And we know that that's when a woman is at the most highest risk of being murdered.
Wow, there's a lot in there, Barbara.
There is. But we're starting to see the change, mm-hmm. which I think is so important, because once our legal system and our social safety net recognize the importance of this relationship, and that about almost 2/3 of homes in Canada have pets. And of those who have pets, about 90% report considering them as family. So it's a no-brainer that we need to fix the legal and social framework to make sure that it encompasses animals into that, into the solution in order to reduce interpersonal violence and domestic violence.
Well, and there's just, so many links. We know that, through lots of research through the criminal system, that a number of people that have become serial murderers, their families look back on it and say, well, we know that, he was abusive or she was abusive to, to squirrels or to, creatures that were in the community, right? Cats, etc. So we know that this is obviously, heartbreaking to hear, but at the same time, thank heavens we're moving this forward, Barbara.
Yeah, you're so right. There's about 50 years of research worldwide into how often violence against animals and violence against people are directly related and linked. It's just taking our system this long to catch up to that, and we need to keep the pressure up, and we need to keep the voice of animals front and center, because it goes back to one of the concepts even that we started to hear more about during the pandemic is that we're all in this together. It's a one welfare concept: people, animals, and the earth. We're all inextricably linked, but for a long time now, our legislation and our social systems have really sought to separate us and to not look at it holistically. And the violence link is the most clear example of the fact that the welfare of people and the welfare of animals are inextricably linked, and we need to address them that way in order to overall reduce violence.
And I think you brought up a really good point. I think we do a disservice by having, organizations focus so solely on a mandate that it can't cross over. Right? In terms of, you think about all the organizations that are working for domestic violence. I think about all the conversations I've had in terms of the 86 recommendations coming out of the 3 murders in the Ottawa Valley. I mean, there's so much in there that crosses over no matter what organization it is. So the fact that we're breaking down those silos, Barbara, is really good news.
Absolutely, and we launched the Canadian Violence Link Coalition back in 2018 to do exactly that. And there are so many organizations on a regular basis that are coming and joining in the conversation from all different sectors, that we're seeing real strength in that collaboration, in that communication, and in seeing that if we support animals, that doesn't mean we can't support women and can't support children and can't, and equally the other way. And so how do we work with our humane societies and SPCAs to make sure that every resource we can is dedicated to helping women who need to leave, for example, and vice versa. The different shelters now, women's shelters that are looking at, okay, how do we either accommodate pets in our shelter, or how do we make sure that we have the list of services in the area that can foster the animal or take care of the animal so that the woman can leave and get back on her feet and then be reunited with that very important family member. We would never expect a woman to leave a situation and leave her children behind because we wouldn't house them. And so we really shouldn't be doing that for animals either.
Beautifully said, Barbara. Thanks for your time today. Let's keep in touch, okay?
Absolutely, Sam. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Barbara Cartwright spending time with us today, CEO of Humane Canada, talking about the links between domestic violence and household pets, an important one there. We do have some breaking news we've shared with you. The Toronto Stock Exchange halted trading shortly after the opening bell today due to a technical issue. Our City News team will be following this story very closely. You'll want to stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Arkantel and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa
and CJET 1011 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, November 1st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smith Falls, it is 12 degrees. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The Toronto Star is reporting that the Ford government says it is willing to return to the bargaining table with QP if a mediator requested. This is as the government introduced back to work legislation meant to avert a strike, as well as impose contract on school support staff in the province. And legislators have been at Queen's Park since about 5 a.m. debating this legislation. I will continue to monitor the story and bring you updates throughout the morning. And one local politician has been calling on the Ford government to bargain fairly with QP members to bring the turmoil in the public education system to an end. John Fraser is the interim leader of the Ontario Liberals and MPP for Ottawa South.
These are the lowest paid people in our education system. They're custodians, they're early childhood educators, they're EAs, educational assistants, they're administrators or secretaries. These people are essential to a safe and welcoming environment, and they don't get paid well. And so I think to use them as an example is wrong. I think the government should bargain fairly.
Fraser tells City News the government should have taken advantage of the 3 days of mediation and bargaining that was left this week before they ever considered invoking back to work legislation. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Well, as we start the month of November, still rather gloomy conditions to deal with. Some fog patches, showers, drizzle, mainly though through the morning, continuing mild up to 16 for the guaranteed high. Tonight, mainly clear and 4, and then tomorrow, lots of sunshine, about 15. For today, the guaranteed high, 16.
City News time is 11:02. And happening now, the Toronto Stock Exchange has halted trading because of a technical issue. The TMX Group, which operates the exchange, says trading has stopped for the TSX, TSXV, and Alpha markets. TMX says it is experiencing a connection issue with the TSX order entry symbol range M to S, and it says it is investigating the issue. And stay with City News Ottawa for more on this developing story. The organizers of the convoy protest that shut down the core of the capital early this year are now testifying at the inquiry into the federal government's use of the Emergencies Act. This also comes as Ontario Premier Doug Ford heads to court to try to avoid testifying. City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has the story.
Chris Barber, who was one of the first organizers of the convoy, is being questioned by the commission lawyer and says basically he started this because he was angry about COVID mandates, along with another trucker who had posted an influential TikTok video. Barber, who owns a trucking company, says as they rolled towards the Capitol, they were in contact with police.
Did you discuss the potential length of the protest with any police officials? I believe not.
Barber says he didn't read the memorandum of understanding that was brought forward by another organizer, which had called for a citizens committee to essentially oust the Trudeau government through the Senate and Governor General. Barber is facing charges over his involvement with the protest. His lawyer said at the outset that they would refuse to answer any questions that could incriminate him in any civil or criminal cases. Meanwhile, in federal court, lawyers for the Commission and the province of Ontario are before a judge debating whether or not Premier Doug Ford and former Solicitor General Sylvia Jones should be compelled to testify at the inquiry. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Exactly what I needed on my Tuesday. That's Jenny Tai. She's a musician. Women in Blue show is coming to the Capitol. How are you, Jenny?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I wanted to keep listening to that song. It was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Jenny, how did you get into the blues?
When I was a kid, I took classical traditional piano lessons, but my teacher would always give me this sort of fun song, a jazz or blues tune at the end of every lesson, and I just loved the sounds that the piano could make. And then as I continued to learn and grow up, I just delved more into it. And there's a bar in Edmonton, where I'm from, called Blues on White, and that bar has live blues music every night of the week, and it was where I was sort of first exposed to live blues music, and I just fell in love with it.
Well, I can tell you love it. It sounds fantastic. I understand you're coming to the Capitol.
I am, yes, I am, and I'm very excited. It's been a long time since I've been to Ottawa.
Excellent. Give us all the details, Jenny.
So I am playing October 9th at the Shankman Arts Center, and I'm sharing the evening with a friend of mine named Miss Emily, who is also a fantastic blues singer, and she was recently nominated for Juno. And we were both bringing our full bands to the concert, so it's going to be high energy, female blues singing, fun.
That's fantastic. So November 9th at the Shankman Arts Theatre. Have you ever played Shankman before?
I have not. No, I haven't.
You are in for a treat. It is a beautiful theater. Very, very, very popular with many artists, because it's, I think it's from what I understand, I'm not an artist at all, but from what I understand from other musicians, it's a musician's theater. So I think you're going to have a great time.
Oh, great. I'm really excited. Yeah.
Fantastic.
The last time I was through Ottawa, I played, I was a guest at the NAC with the Downchild Blues Band. And it was beautiful there too. I think Ottawa must be home to a lot of great theaters.
Absolutely. When we think about the blues, we normally think about, well, older guys. Would you agree with me, Jenny? And it's definitely changed, though.
It does feel like a lot of women are coming to the genre and staking their claim. I would agree with that. Yeah.
And when you think about all of the shows that you get to play, what's one moment that sort of stands out for you that you realize you're really connecting with the audience?
For me, it might have, just off the top of my head, it might have been when I was in Memphis in 2014. as part of the International Blues Challenge. And I was in my early 20s, and it was one of the first times I felt like there was a massive international community of people that love the same music that I do, and it was really celebrated. So that comes to mind.
For sure. And when people are going to come to the show, what are they up for? What's the show like, Jenny?
Well, my music, I really concentrate on my songwriting. So I tell lots of stories about the songs I write. And again, I'm bringing my band. So we have lots of high energy music. I also play piano. So it's keyboard driven. And then again, Miss Emily, she's also super high energy, really fun to take in her show. I think it's just going to be a high energy, fun evening.
And when you look out to the audience, who are you seeing there? Is it all different ages? Who's sort of being attracted to watch you play?
Typically, it's more of the boomer demographic, I'd say. I think that music is more part of the culture that they were brought up with. But I am always hoping that younger millennials and younger people will come out too, because I do find when they hear the music, they love it. It's just that they're not exposed to it as often as somebody a little bit older.
For sure. And do you have anybody that you would admire in the blues that you sort of model yourself after?
Bonnie Raitt. She's one of my biggest heroes, and I just really admire her career because it's been really long, and she's evolved a lot, and she doesn't seem to stick to one genre. Like she spans many types of music, which I also really admire.
Well, I'm hoping there's tickets still available, because I think we're inspiring some people to see you on November the 9th at the beautiful Schenkman Arts Theatre. I know you're going to have a great show. Jennings, sending you all the positive vibes for a great full audience and some great memories here in Ottawa.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to it.
Look forward to having you here in the capital. Jenny Tai joining us, a musician with the Women in Blues show coming to the Schenkman Art Theatre. We know that theatre, if you've never been there, honestly, go see Jenny. Check out that theatre. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love it there. And in the West End, there's always great shows as well at the Centrepoint Theatre, the Meridian Theatre, which is beautiful as well. Lots of great entertainment happening in this city, which we're so grateful for. We wanted to just bring you a little bit of an update. The Toronto Stock Exchange is expected to resume trading after a technical issue halted the market shortly after the opening bell today. So we're going to be keeping you up to date there. We know the TMX Group, which operates the exchange, said trading had stopped for the TSX, TSXV, and Alpha markets just after 10 a.m. in Toronto. It was experiencing a connection issue, but is expected to resume. So we're going to be following that closely as well. We know there'll be breaking news for you here on City News. When we come back in a little bit, Meg McCallum's going to be here, Executive Director for the Alliance to End Homelessness. She's going to give us some of her thoughts on how we can combat homelessness here in this city. And of course, it is that remembrance period. We know the Silver Cross Mother was announced today. We're going to hear all of those details from Stephen Clark, National Executive Director for the Royal Canadian Legion. There are so many innovative ways that you can remember. Of course, our traditional poppy, such an important part of all Canadians at this time, remembering those that have fallen and sacrificed their lives for us. But there's many, many different creative ways that you can remember. So we're going to give all those details to you a little bit later. And of course, Lunch with Sam, Andrew Brander's going to be here, and Jody Middick's going to be here. We're going to have a menu of a number of items today, including talking about the education workers and what's going to be happening potentially on Friday. The Ontario government was up very early this morning talking about that back to work legislation. We're going to be speaking about that on the Lunch with Sam today. We're also going to be speaking about the Emergencies Act inquiry. We know Chris Barber, one of those top organizers for the so-called Freedom Convoy, is testifying today. We went to it a little bit earlier. We're going to be bringing any of that breaking news for you as well today. We're also going to be speaking today about credit card debt And we're hearing from Equifax Canada that the average Canadian credit card balance hit a record high at the end of September. This is very concerning, as we know, with the rate of inflation. We talk about, obviously, those high interest rates for a number of properties and any loans that you might have. We keep hearing that R word, the recession word. So we're going to be talking about this, of course, today. And then we're going to talk about everything that's happening at Most St. Marie. We're going to be speaking about everything that's happening there to get ready for a very busy, well, hopefully, a very busy winter season. Very busy day here at City News. We want you to stay with us on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally, and that's when I first saw Wilf, and I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
I am Audrey.
And I'm Leah.
Leah inspired me to play hockey. The War Amps has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the War Amps allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, there's no two ways about it. Before the pandemic, there was a very big challenge in this city when it comes to people who find themselves homeless, and that can look very different for very different people. We're going to be walking through a lot of this today with Meg McCallum, Executive Director for the Alliance to End Homelessness in Ottawa. Hi, Meg.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. Meg, let's just start off. Can we end homelessness in this city?
Oh, certainly. Homelessness is a policy failure. And if governments put their minds to it, they can definitely end the problem. Is it simple? No, there's a lot of policies that need to change and a lot of resources that would need to be directed. But it's definitely doable.
So is it policies and money that stands in the way, Meg?
Exactly. Yeah. We have the solutions. This isn't rocket science. It's about creating policies that protect affordable housing, that create new affordable housing and preserve the quality of affordable housing. It's about policies that give people sufficient income, that provide them with the supports that they need to stay housed and be able to afford to live in the community.
Is this policies at all three levels of government then, Meg?
Oh, definitely. There's roles for everybody from the federal to the provincial to the municipal government. Each of them has policy levers and funding resources at their disposal within the realm of influence that they have in public policy.
And I think people would be surprised, Meg, to know how much it costs to have somebody be homeless, which I know sounds bizarre, but the amount of money that's put in to care for them, whether that be, health care in terms of calling ambulance or police or fire, and then, of course, all the shelter monies and all of the monies that they're pour into the system. If we, and I'm assuming this is what you're going to say, redirect that money and pocket that money together to provide affordable housing, at the end of the day, that money will be spent, but it'll be spent with somebody living with shelter.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more expensive to maintain what we currently do, keeping people experiencing homelessness, living precarious lives, and lives that are really centered in trauma, rather than spending less money to keep people stably housed and secure and safe.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to change that.
I mean, nobody grows up wanting to be homeless, and it just breaks my heart. And, I've spoke about it a lot here on City News. As you know, Meg, I was worked in the homeless sector for just about a decade. And, the different stories, and I know you know this as well, every person you met had a different story. I mean, there were people that were there that were high up in the government. There was athletes, there was musicians, there were, moms and dads and brothers and sisters. And it was amazing to me that everybody had a story that was so unique. So it's hard to sort of find a system that kind of puts everybody in the same bucket when the truth is everybody has a different reality in terms of why they're homeless.
For sure. I think there's a couple of common threads. The first is poverty. I read recently that 85% of people of people who are experiencing homelessness can't afford the housing that they need. And almost 3/4 of the people who are living in core housing need just can't afford housing. So poverty is the thing that unites people who are experiencing homelessness or housing precarity, who are living in places that they can't afford. But even, if you dig a little bit deeper into that, you will find that there are certain priority populations that are overrepresented in homelessness and in housing precarity. And these are groups that have been systemically excluded from society and who experience a lot more separation and more challenges. And that includes Black-led households, Indigenous households, visible minorities, single mother-led households, and women led households in general. As well as households with physical disabilities and mental health issues. So, we can take a broad brush and look at the income and the issue of financialization of housing and the financial costs of housing, and then we can also look at who has access to to the benefits of our society that can afford to find places to live.
It's so complicated, but we need a starting point. I know you've been working on this for a long time. The Alliance to End Homelessness has been around for a very long time. What is the next step? I know we have a new mayor, obviously, from a municipal perspective. We'll have a new mayor in a couple of weeks. We have a lot of fresh faces around the council table as well. Is the starting point, or the next step, I should say, for you, that particular group of people?
Most definitely. Within the City of Ottawa, we have this really exciting opportunity with 11 new councillors coming in and a new mayor. And during the election, the Alliance to End Homelessness and our coalition of partners ran a campaign called Starts with Home that created a platform of solutions that was developed by housing experts. And we asked all candidates in the election to indicate their endorsement of that platform. And we're really excited that we've gotten 11 endorsements from 11 councillors who've been elected. And then we've also gotten 4 partial endorsements, as well as support from Mayor-elect Mart Sutcliffe, who's committed to championing the building of more housing that's accessible and affordable, and delivering on the city's community housing commitments to build up 1,000 units of affordable housing a year. So we're really excited to get to work with the new council because we really do have the solutions that can be implemented at the municipal level.
We've talked a lot, Meg, about providing a home, but is a home enough for people that require that support? Or are you thinking that this would be supportive housing of some kind, including those supports for addiction, mental health, trauma, etc.?
Definitely, that's a part of the solution. For many people, all they need is the affordability. But for other people, they are going to need a variety of supports to live independently. And that funding flows through the federal government's Reaching Home program down to the municipality and is flowed out to homeless serving agencies and supportive housing providers in the city. And it's really important that supportive element, be included in new affordable housing.
And I can't help but ask, how many people are homeless today in this city?
The numbers, now I'm thinking, I should have gone and checked the numbers before we talked, but truthfully, the numbers don't change too much. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you that on any given night, we have about 2,000 people experiencing homelessness in the city of Ottawa, and that can include up to 300 family members. And that's just a situation that we deal with on an ongoing basis. Mm-hmm.
And the definition of homelessness, I know that might sound like a silly question to some people, but that's everything from couch surfing to living on the streets, correct?
Yeah. Now, when I speak about the 2,000 and the 300, those are the people who are counted in shelter populations. If you want to look on a bigger basis, where are we at? How much affordable housing do we need in the city? If you're counting the people who are identified as experiencing homelessness, that it ends up being about 50,000 households living in core housing need and currently experiencing homelessness who need housing. But if you add into that the people who are precariously housed, that's people who are paying too much for what they have now, or who are couch surfing, or making do in unsuitable accommodations, things like overcrowded, whether it's a rooming house or students living cheek to jowl, or two people sharing a one bedroom because they can't afford to each have their own bedroom, maybe one in the living room or in the dining room, staying there, kind of thing. If you look at all of those numbers together, it comes up to about 100,000 new homes that we need for people experiencing homelessness and housing precarity in Ottawa.
Wow, it's certainly a big job, and I know how hard all of you work. I appreciate your time today, Meg.
Oh, thanks so much.
Meg McCallum joining us, Executive Director for the Alliance to End Homelessness in Ottawa. Appreciate their time today. When we come back after the news, Stephen Clark will be here, National Executive Director for the Royal Canadian Legion. It's that time of year. Well, I hope we always remember the fallen, but this time of year in particular. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Little brown girl, Hey, I'm Picasso in Vonteef. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrive Alive smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa storytellers. Each week, we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, November 1st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, mostly cloudy, 12 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. The Toronto Stock Exchange is expected to resume trading after a technical issue halted the market at about 10 a.m. local time. The TMX Group, which operates trading, has stopped for the TSX, the TSXV, and Alpha Markets. TMX says it was experiencing a connection issue at the time with the TSX order entry symbol range M2S. And amid the turmoil in the public education system in this province, the Ottawa Catholic School Board says it will close its schools on Friday if unionized education workers go on strike. The board says it will be unsafe to operate without them. The Upper Canada District School Board schools will also be closed and will be preparing for remote learning, while the 2 French boards in the city say they're still monitoring the situation. Kids who attend schools in the Ottawa Cotton District School Board will not be affected as they have no CUPE representation at their schools. Meanwhile, the Toronto Star is reporting that the Ford government says it is willing to return to bargaining table with CUPE, but only if a mediator requests it. And lawyers for Ontario Premier Doug Ford and former Solicitor General Sylvia Jones are making their case in federal court today in an effort to get the pair out of testifying at the Federal Emergencies Act inquiry. Ford and Jones were summoned to testify last week. They're arguing the summons should be quashed because they cannot testify due to parliamentary privilege, which provides immunity to certain politicians. The commission wants to hear from Ford and Jones about how they handled the trucker convoy occupation in downtown Ottawa and the blockade of incoming traffic from the U.S. at the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor. City News time is 11:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, this is the remembrance period leading up to November the 11th, Remembrance Day. There are many new initiatives launched by the Royal Canadian Legion, and we wanted to get all of the details today from Stephen Clark, National Executive Director. Welcome to City News, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate you welcoming the Legion to the show.
Of course. And right off the top, I'm just going to tell all of our listeners, when you don't hear me here on City News, I'm working for the Legion National Foundation. And it's a great honor to do that, Stephen.
It's absolutely wonderful to have you as part of the team working for the foundation and for veterans, Sam. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you so much. Stephen, a big announcement was made today and one that is both heartbreaking and heartwarming. And I understand you've announced the Silver Cross Mother for this year.
Absolutely. This is a designation that no one would ever want to have, but it is such an important and symbolic thing. The National Silver Cross Mother for 2022 is Mrs. Candy Greff of Lacombe, Alberta. She is the mother of Master Corporal Byron Greff, who was a member of the 3rd Battalion of the PPCLI based in Edmonton. And sadly, he passed in October 29th, 2011, while he was serving in Afghanistan. Fortunately, he was riding inside an armor bus when a suicide bomber detonated an explosives-filled car, which impacted the bus. Master Corporal Greff was the last Canadian soldier to give his life in Afghanistan in the line of duty.
And boy, I was reading, preparing for our time together today, Stephen, and noted that he was born in 1983. And boy, it just feels so young.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. If ever you have an opportunity to visit Europe and you are touring some of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission cemeteries to pay your respects, that's what really stands out, is how young some of these soldiers were when they had passed.
Absolutely. And this remembrance period, obviously the Silver Cross Mother is a very big part of what's happening on November the 11th. Walk us through the role that she'll play that day, Stephen.
I'm going to step back just a little bit, Sam, to talk about the Memorial Cross initially and why it was issued. It was a symbol of personal loss and sacrifice on behalf of all the widows and mothers who had lost a child while on active duty in the service of their nation. And part of the Legion's program to perpetuate the memory of the fallen is the selection of the National Silver Cross Mother. That dates back to 1936 with the unveiling of the Vimy Memorial, but a very important symbolic tradition that the Legion continues today. She represents all mothers who have experienced a loss of a son or daughter in the service of Canada, and she will be at the national ceremony in Ottawa. Attending with her will be her husband, Greg, and although the two of them will be together, when she goes forward to place the wreath on behalf of all the mothers of Canada who have suffered a loss, she will do so on her own. And that very poignant and symbolic effort represents the loneliness and loss that is felt by a mother who gave birth, and in effect, a country that has symbolically also lost a son or a daughter. The entire nation will be standing behind her in collective reminiscence of her son, Byron, and all his comrades who have fallen in the service of Canada.
Such an emotional moment. That one always, as I watch the, the ceremony. Of course, it always chokes everybody up. I think to experience that moment. Let's talk about how the Royal Canadian Legion, really, Stephen, over the last number of years, has become so innovative, creating different opportunities for people to remember. You've done it again this year. You and your team have done such a great job of coming up with different ways. Walk us through how we can participate.
There are a couple of things, and Sam, you said it right. There's an incredible team here at Legion headquarters, and every one of them works so passionately to supporting remembrance, to promoting the importance of remembering sacrifices, and in supporting veterans. But we're continuing on with a couple of existing initiatives, and then we have a couple of new ones. The existing one is we're continuing on with our Tap to Pay Tribute electronic poppy boxes, and we have 1,000 of those spread all across the country. That is a way that we are evolving remembrance. I find myself, if I'm out and about, I rarely have money with me. So if I come upon an opportunity to make a donation for something, I just don't have the cash to do that. So we instituted these electronic tap boxes a couple of years ago, and they have been exceptionally well received, and we're continuing on with those as well. Another thing that we're doing this year, we are being very respectful of the environment, and we have introduced biodegradable poppies and wreaths. Now, the poppies look very similar to the existing poppies, and you may not even be able to tell them apart, but they are made from paper and a cotton velvet, so they will look the same, they will feel the same, but they are environmentally much, much better. The same with our wreaths. Our wreaths are made of moss and bamboo, plaster. They also have the cotton velvet poppies on them, and again, very much a way for the Legion to do its part for the environment. Now, we were introducing them this year. It will take a couple of years for the residual stock to be depleted, but eventually all poppies and wreaths used will be biodegradable that we have for the campaign.
Wow, it's incredible. And I'm of course seeing people wear their poppies. I have my poppy. Unfortunately, I don't have it on today, but I've seen so many people wear those poppies already, and it's such an important time of year to do that. Stephen, walk us through any other initiatives that you could talk about. I know it's going to be very important for November 11th this year that we can actually gather in Ottawa.
Absolutely. There's a couple of initiatives I'll talk about, and then I'll mention the ceremony. One of the initiatives we've instituted this year is Poppy Stories. And we say every poppy has a story. So what we are doing is you simply take your smartphone, you go to poppystories.ca, and you scan your lapel's poppy. And as you do, you will be introduced to a fallen soldier, and you will be able to read his story and learn about him. Each one of these vignettes not only recognizes the sacrifice of a Canadian soldier and honoring their life, they give a history into their background. You learn where they're from, about their family, their hobbies, their career, their military service. It adds an immediate educational component that everyone can access using their smartphone and their lapel poppy. It's an absolutely wonderful initiative.
That's amazing.
The other thing I want to talk about is something that has just launched today. It's called Letters Home. Letters and postcards have been recreated and sent to the current occupant of addresses where First and Second World War soldiers wrote actual letters home during their overseas service. Now, this particular project will give insight into moments of personal reflection and emotions. And we will be able to share a soldier's hopes as they were writing letters home, their expressions of longing for home that they expressed from afar, and it brings us that much closer to history. These are two projects that we're really passionate about and really looking forward to this year as the campaign has launched.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing. It's an opportunity for each and every one of us to learn the people that have sacrificed, well, everything really, Stephen, of course. Let's walk through what's happening on November the 11th.
This is the first time in 3 years that we have been able to gather across the country at cenotaphs and memorials in communities large and small as a collective nation honoring our fallen. For the ceremony downtown, the national ceremony, which Legion National Headquarters organizes, we are so pleased to be able to go back to our pre-pandemic format. So we are encouraging all members of the public, if they want to attend downtown, they are certainly now welcome and able to do so. We will have representation from the Governor General, from various levels of government, participating in the Vice-Regal Party. We are welcoming back as many veterans as possible to participate in the Veterans Parade, and seeing these veterans march by is such a special moment, and we are so glad to be able to welcome them back, along with the representatives of a number of veterans organizations who will be placing wreaths. The last couple of years, we've had to pre-position wreaths because we weren't able to have people on site. That's not the case this year. We are welcoming everyone back, and those wreaths will be placed by representatives of each one of those organizations, veterans organizations and not, members of the diplomatic corps, members of government, different levels, members of the military, all back on site to be able to show in person what remembrance means to them. And we are very much looking forward to that special day.
Stephen, what was it like? Of course, I would see you on television during the ceremony the last couple of years, and before that, I was able to be there in person with so many other Canadians. What was it like for you those couple of years where we couldn't invite Canadians to be close?
In 2020, it was a very eerie feeling, Sam, because we wanted to make sure that we kept everyone safe, so people could not even approach the National War Memorial to get a glimpse of the ceremony that was going on. It was very, very small, still very respectful, very emotional. but you really did miss the participation of the people who come out to show their support for veterans. Last year was a little better. We were able to welcome some people back to the ceremony. We had a larger contingent inside, but still it was not that same sense of community that you get when everyone is welcome to come down. And that's what I am looking forward to this year. It really will be a commemoration that the community can all participate in. Everyone has their own personal reasons for remembering and for attending ceremonies. And it is going to be so nice this year that we can do that collectively.
It certainly will be, and it always amazes me when I'm down there, Stephen, that, you know, with tens of thousands of people in regular times, of course, that you can still hear a pin drop. It is if people haven't experienced it, it is remarkable how Canadians remember the fallen, for sure.
Absolutely, Sam, and I have to agree with you that we've had upwards of 54,000 people around that site, and when the 2 minutes of silence happens at 11 o'clock, it is absolute silence, and the world stands still, but the memories continue.
Oh, beautifully said. Stephen Clark, National Executive Director for the Royal Canadian Legion. I appreciate your time today.
My pleasure, Sam. Thank you.
Take care. Stephen is very, very busy with all of his team, and hopefully you can buy a poppy. You can participate in all of those initiatives that Stephen laid out for us there, and maybe even plan November 11th to be downtown and experience at the War Memorial what it's like for Remembrance Day in the capital. Stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name is Arcanta and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll introduce you to a local singer-songwriter who has some exciting things happening. First of all, he just recently went to Nashville to perform. He won a contest of about 20,000 songs. He also has over 100,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. The Ottawa Food Bank will be here. They'll tell us about the increase in their services and food demand. And we'll introduce you to a couple of upcoming events here in Ottawa.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
From coast to coast, all across Canada, there's something very special going on. It's time to show your support. Time to spread the word. Time to demonstrate your commitment to safe and sober driving. Join thousands of Canadians and tie a ribbon on something or someone you love. And take the time to have a real conversation about impaired driving. Mad Project Red Ribbon. Tie it, wear it, show it, share it, live it. Find out more at mad.ca.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, there is so much history in this city, and I really enjoy my time with Ben Wise from the Historical Society of Ottawa. I always learn something from Ben. Hi, Ben. How are you?
Good morning, Sam. Yesterday was the final day of October, Women's History Month, and I would love it if we could take a look back and talk about some of the amazing women from Ottawa's past today.
Let's do it. Who are we going to start with, Ben?
Well, you know what? You just had a wonderful conversation with Stephen Clark from the Royal Canadian Legion, so I'd like to just follow up on that and talk about an amazing woman named Lillian Freeman. Now, generations of people in Ottawa were very familiar with the Freeman name because it was an iconic department store downtown back in the days of the great independent department stores. Her husband AJ and her son Lawrence ran the Freeman's department store empire. But Lillian Freeman actually organized Canada's first poppy campaign in 1921, and during World War I, she had led the organization that actually became the Royal Canadian Legion. So they say AJ ran the store and Lillian Freeman went about saving the world. And was that ever the case? Her father was Moses Bilkey. He was the patriarch of Ottawa's first Jewish family. They called Lillian Freeman the Poppy Lady because, as I said, she organized Canada's first poppy campaign in 1921. The original poppies were actually made in her living room here in Ottawa. Before that, during the war, Lillian had the furniture in her living room hauled out, replaced with 30 sewing machines so that volunteers could make blankets and clothing for the troops overseas. This was back when Canada didn't have governmental safety nets. Mayors and prime ministers would come knocking on Lillian's door whenever there was a time of crisis. World War I, as you know, was immediately followed by the flu, the Great Flu of 1918. She answered the call. She rallied together thousands of volunteers in Ottawa to deal with the pandemic. Whenever she heard that orphans, veterans were in need or destitute, when they arrived at her door, she would march across the street into the Freeman store and grab whatever coats, hats, or mittens they needed. She passionately supported Jewish causes, but would also fill 5,000 stockings for families of absent military men at Christmas time. She was the first Jewish Canadian to be awarded the Order of the British Empire, and at her funeral in 1940, which was attended by the Prime Minister and the Mayor, her casket was covered with red poppies.
Wow. Do you ever hear about the story of somebody like that and you think, I just wish I would have met that person. I wish I would have met Lillian?
Well, absolutely. And you know, when we our history, I guess, has been written by men because our history seems to focus on the men of our history. But it's you know, there are many great women behind the men we'd heard of. I mean, Stephen was talking about the mothers of the soldiers that went overseas, but there are women like Lillian who just were amazing people in their own right. Back in a day when men were hesitant to let women step into the spotlight. Last week, we talked about some of the extraordinary mayors throughout Ottawa's history. There's a couple more I want to talk about.
Sure.
We're actually taking our first Speaker Series presentation of the new year and turning it into a debate to debate which mayor has been the most remarkable mayor in Ottawa's history. But even though Ottawa has had very few women as mayor, the two finalists we chose for the debate are both women, Charlotte Whitten and Marion Dewar.
Wow.
So Marion Dewar, many people remember her as mayor in the late 70s through to the mid-80s. Marion Dewar Plaza is right in front of our City Hall. Many remember her son, Paul Dewar, who we've lost as well. Marion Dewar was renowned and beloved for her compassion, activist spirit, and her vision. And most famously, she spearheaded Project 4000. And that was back in 1979. She had actually been watching TV at her cottage, and she heard the terrible story of these refugees from Vietnam and other parts of Southeast Asia who are ending up on boats in the sea trying to find refuge. So she met with some federal officials, and they said, well, you know, we've already accepted 4,000 of these refugees into the country. And she quickly said, well, you know what? Send another 4,000 to Ottawa because we'll take another 4,000. And that's how it became known as Project 4000. In the end, largely due to Marion Dewar's pushing, Canada eventually took over 100,000 of these refugees from Southeast Asia in 1979, 80, and the next couple of years. Her call for action not only galvanized her city, but also the entire nation. She's also known for revitalizing our downtown core, for being a champion for seniors, the disabled, affordable housing, and childcare. She was all about compassion and her determined belief in a better world.
Wow. I mean, I knew a lot about Mary, and I didn't know all of that. So thank you for sharing. Are you going to speak?
Sorry?
I was going to ask if you were going to speak about Mayor Whitten.
Absolutely. Now, Mayor Whitten, a much more complicated person.
Right.
And, you know, it's simple to say she was the first woman of a major city in Canada. And that is such a statement, though, because back then it was unheard of for women to be involved in politics at all. Mm-hmm. She came upon it because she was the deputy mayor, and the mayor passed away at the time back in 1951. But she held strong. She was mayor right from 1951 through 1956, and then she made a comeback in the 60s, 1960 to 64. Charlotte Whitten was a fighter, literally. She was tiny, but she would literally get into fist fights with councillors twice her size. She even fought elections against her own brother-in-law, Frank Ryan, and had her own sister campaign against her. But she made stuff happen. She believed what she believed, and watch out if you weren't on her side. The way the Ottawa Citizen put it, Miss Whitten has ideas on everything. Her mind works like instant coffee, and so it follows that sometimes she gets it wrong. Sometimes she did. She was famous for more quotes than Yogi Berra. And one of my favorites was, "Whatever women do, they must do twice as well as men to be thought of half as good. Luckily, this is not difficult."
That's awesome. Oh my heavens! I heard she was a firecracker.
Oh, she was. She absolutely was. And if you got in your way, you just watch out. Developers feared her. It was her way or the highway. One other apocryphal quote: she met the mayor of London, who was all decked out fancy in his medals and his chains of office. Well, Mayor Whitten, coming from Canada, only had a flower in her lapel. Apparently, this mayor of London, all decked out in chains, leaned over and asked, if I sniff your rose, will you blush? To which Whitten is said to have responded, if I pull your chain, will you flush?
Oh my heavens, Ben, I wasn't expecting that. Oh my heavens. She is on incredible. I mean, I heard like you mentioned, I heard she was a bit of firecracker, and I heard she had lots of great quotes, but she certainly is an important figure. Walk us through how can people participate in this debate that's coming up?
Okay, so basically, we're very fortunate. We have Elizabeth Arnold, who's a former Ottawa City Council, and she's going to travel all the way from Montreal to the Ottawa Public Library in January to vouch for Marion Dewar, who she knew quite well. And on the other side, we have our very own Dave Mullington, who's actually written two fabulous books. One's called, I believe, The Chains of Office, about all the mayors of Ottawa, and the other, he wrote specifically a wonderful book about Charlotte Whitten called The Last Suffragette, in which case he basically draws a very full portrait of Charlotte Whitten, the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, she was not a perfect person, but what a character and what an influential person she was in our city's history.
For sure. So all the details will be on the Historical Society of Ottawa's website page then.
Yeah, that'll be coming up later in January, yeah.
Wow. Ben, I love these times with you. I always learn something. You always leave me, even more impressed about what's happened here in our city. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam.
Ben Wise joining us, Historical Society of Ottawa, talking about those important female figures in Ottawa's history, really important times, of course, for us to remember all of them. When we come back, it's Lunch with Sam. Who's going to be joining us at the table today? It's Andrew Brander and Jody Middick. I expect it's going to be a great lunch. I hope you come for lunch with us as well here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Little brown girl,
Hey, I'm Picasso Wynn Von Teef. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3.
so pure, keep reading, keep seeing.
I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Here we go. Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, November 1st. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, mostly cloudy, 12 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. At Queen's Park, the Premier had some pointed words for the union representing education workers, with MPPs taking part in a fiery question period after debating for hours a bill that will force a contract on those employees and ban them from striking. City News Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern is at the legislature and joins us with the latest happenings.
Premier Ford has for the first time spoken out about his government's controversial decision to oppose this contract on CUPE educational workers, and he went right after union leadership.
We're talking over 1 million parents that would take work off because you want to feather the nest of the heads of the union. That's unacceptable. We differentiate between labor and labor leadership. I think the labor needs to find new labor leadership.
The NDP's Merritt Stiles, though, pointing out that the Premier is using the notwithstanding clause here, the first time it's ever been used in a labor situation.
This government is violating the rights of 55,000 Ontario workers, and those workers are parents too. Newsflash.
There's only one party in this chamber that is standing up for students and parents, and that's the PC party.
The legislature began sitting here at 5 o'clock this morning. The government hopes to have this bill passed by Thursday. At Queen's Park, Richard Southern, City News.
And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is criticizing the Ontario government's use of the notwithstanding clause in legislation to impose contracts on education workers and ban them from striking. Trudeau says using the clause to, quote, suspend workers' rights is wrong. And while collective bargaining is difficult, the process must happen. Ontario's legislature is debating the bill today, which comes after the Canadian Union of Public Employees said its 55,000 education workers members would start a full strike on Friday. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Any fog will dissipate, showers and drizzle at times through the morning, and then we start to clear out. It will be a nice evening. On the mild side, today the guaranteed high 16 will drop to 4 for the low. Sunshine tomorrow and 15 and up to 17 on Thursday. Even warmer for Friday and for the weekend. For today, the guaranteed high 16.
City News time is 12:02. Members of Canada's business community are calling on the federal government to bring employees back to the office as rapidly as possible. City News reporter Chris Curries has the story.
In an open letter to Treasury Board President Mona Fortier, the heads of 32 business associations, including the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and the Ottawa Board of Trade, say COVID-19 has reached a new phase, and they strongly urge the feds to, quote, lead the way to a return to normal. The business group's efforts come as the federal government takes a department-by-department approach on whether employees should return to in-person work. The business associations raised concerns about the future of Ottawa's downtown, mentioning that Ottawa-Gatineau's rate of return to the office is the lowest of any government capital in Canada. In a statement responding to the letter, Fortier said the government is, quote, moving from remote by necessity to hybrid by design. Chris Curry's City News.
And it's the time of the year again when people grow their mustache for a good cause. City News reporter Jeff Rahoman joins us with more on the start of November.
Yeah, changing the face of men's health. That's been the slogan for years. And for the month of November, people will be growing mustaches to raise money for prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and mental health, including our City News 680 team, once again led by Simon Bennett. Now, Simon, we obviously want to raise as much money as possible, but
it's that time of year and my family embraces the fact that I will look ridiculous for the next few weeks, but it's for a great cause. Maybe I'll keep the stash the whole year. If my wife's listening, she's probably like, don't you dare.
No, keep it. Do it. Now, if you want to donate, search City News 680 on the Movember Canada website. Jeff Rahoman, City News.
I am Damilola Unime for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, what are you having for lunch today? Is it a maybe soup, sandwich, maybe a salad? Well, we're going to be feasting on some amazing topics today in terms of Lunch with Sam. This is where we invite a couple of community and business leaders in to talk about the news of the day. Today, Jody Middick joins us, former city councillor for Innis Ward, and Andrew Brander joins us, vice president with Crestview Strategy. Welcome to lunch, guys.
Good afternoon, Sam.
Thanks so much for being with us today. We know that Ontario lawmakers were up very early today to debate the time-sensitive bill that would impose a 4-year contract on education workers represented by CUPE and thwart their strike plans. What are your thoughts on this, Jody? Were you surprised?
Not really. They seem pretty firm. I've spoken to some of the people actually that are on the government's negotiating side a few months ago when this all started. And it seems like, the union is still in the same position that they wanted to be in. Meeting at 5 a.m. I think shows the importance of how everyone feels about this. And I grew up in a union family. My dad was vice president of the Canadian Auto Workers, so I understand the union side completely and how they feel that they're representing, the worker. But as a parent and a taxpayer, I got to be honest that I feel like they're kind of missing the point this time around. And the most important thing might be to get the kids back in the classrooms, as smoothly as possible before we worry about anything else.
Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I tend to agree. I don't think anyone can be particularly surprised at where we're at ever since CUPE put the option on the or the strike mandate on the table. I think everyone was sort of anticipating in some way, shape, or form we would end up in a scenario that looked like this. Look, the Minister of Education came out very quickly after, days after the June election, with this line that he has repeated consistently, which has been that he believes, and that the Ford government believes, that kids should be in school every day this coming year. And I think that mantra extends to things around lockdowns and health concerns. I think that mandate extends to things like this, which we find ourselves in terms of disruption because of labor issues, and I think they are certainly sending a signal through this legislation of how they intend on dealing with these threats to the continuity of education. To anyone else thinking of taking a similar path, and as Joey's pointed out, I think as much of this is about a communications, plan for the government to signal how important it is to them. Because I do think CUPE had a compelling argument to make, and I think it really is going to come down to a communications battle, and the government is really positioning themselves very well on the side of parents here. So public sympathy, I believe at this point is strongly with the government on this one.
It's going to be very interesting because we know that obviously the talks have been going on for a very long time, and we're going to be following this story obviously very closely here on City News. Let's shift gears a little bit. Jody, you and I have spoke about the so-called Freedom Convoy over the last 11 months now. It started in January and continued into February. The Emergencies Act inquiry is continuing today. On the stand today, testifying was Chris Barber, one of the main organizers of the so-called Freedom Convoy. What are your thoughts so far in terms of what you've heard from the inquiry and from those testifying, Jody?
I put a little bit more thought into this since the last time we talked. And I noticed just, the former chief, he's playing a lot of damage control, and, we seem to be hearing a lot of contradictions, and, it's telling to me that one of Chief Slowly's main comments was that, I'm paraphrasing, but, there's nothing humanly possible that the police can do in a police manner or with police mechanisms. And to me, that sounded like an unimaginative answer, and maybe an indicator of his overall attitude towards the situation, because you heard that other levels of policing were frustrated with the lack of comms or flexibility and things like that. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it, as chief, it was on him to make sure that the protesters understood whose town it was. And I had a lot of sympathy for him at the beginning, but now I think we're starting to see a clear outlook of how things progressed into the situation that they did. And also, last thing with the today's testimony from one of the organizers is, I didn't realize, I suppose, in these situations quite how deep into the social media posts and other things, other activities that I think, a lot of people in their day-to-day lives, or when they comment online or something like that, one of the things we're going to have to realize in a modern Canada is that anything you say or do online can and will be used against you, in the sense that if they have a reason to use it. And I think that that's important to realize, that if somebody out there is taking your comments online seriously, it's worth considering what you're really saying, because it's basically a billboard to the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think some of the stuff we heard today, we sort of we dipped into it for a couple of minutes here on City News, and we were hearing about some of the some of the phrasing that Pat King had regarding when it came to the Prime Minister, and really disturbing things. I mean, will it be what's being said in social media? Should it be held against? Well, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't say those words or write those words
without them.
100%. I mean, those are those are not things we say about our Prime Minister. We don't say them about anybody, but you don't say them about the Prime Minister. Andrew, what are you thinking about the Emergencies Act inquiry?
Agree with the comments that have been made already. My concern with the way things are headed right now, the type of testimony, the start of the inquiry really came out with a way that sort of framed the context and sort of, we heard all these stories and we continue to hear them. My concern is that the mandate of the commission seems to be getting lost sometimes in some of these stories, and we have to, that this is an inquiry, not a trial, and it really has to be centered around the use of the Emergencies Act, which of course is the question that is supposed to be anchoring all of this, and my concern with whenever you individualize these testimonies to whether language was appropriate to be used or not, really doesn't speak to the core questions that the inquiry is supposed to be getting at. So it could be a tactic, certainly, to sort of use people's emotions to sort of break out of the scope and mandate of the inquiry. But I think everyone needs to be paying close attention to that, and making sure that we really get the answers that the Canadians deserve from this. Because again, at the end of the day, this is if the use of the Emergencies Act was not needed, and there was an overreach of the federal government, then that speaks also to a failure of duty of local authorities, and I think that's something that we need to be focusing on as well.
It's going to be very interesting to see the outcome. We know that commission report is due in February of 2023, and time is ticking. I mean, now we're into November. I don't know how many, I have to look up how many people we've actually seen testify, but we know there's 65 in total, potentially 67 if it's insisted by the court that Premier Doug Ford and the Solicitor General at the time, Sylvia Jones, also testifies. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this works. We know that, coming up on holiday season and all of that is going to be really interesting to get all of these, these opportunities to hear from people done in time. So definitely a very tight time frame. When we come back, we're going to have more lunch. We're going to be joined, of course, by Andrew Brander and Jody Minnick, and hopefully you'll stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Arkantel and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
It was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
I'm not special. Cancer happens to people all the time. I take 1 mile at a time, 26 miles a day. I want to set an example that'll never be forgotten. Sometimes, it feels endless. But the pain I feel is nothing. I've seen little kids in so much pain. Somewhere, the hurting must stop.
Terry Fox ran more than halfway across Canada to raise money for cancer research. Every year, millions of people around the world continue the marathon of hope in his name.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back having lunch with Sam on City News and, of course, Rogers TV. We wanted an opportunity to talk about those top news stories of the day. We do this every day between 12 and 12:30. And we've invited to lunch today Andrew Brander, Vice President with Crestview Strategy. Hi, Andrew.
So great to be here.
Oh, fantastic. So glad you're here. And Jody Middick is joining us as well, former city councillor for Innis Ward. Thanks, Jody, for coming back with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Sam. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Andrew, let's talk a little. We were talking about the Emergencies Act inquiry. And just as we were saying goodbye before the break there, we were talking about Premier Doug Ford and Sylvia Jones, who was the Solicitor General at the time, being asked to testify at the Emergencies Act inquiry. They're going to court to try and stop this. Andrew, why are they wanting to stop this in your mind? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've certainly, their lawyers at least will make the case that there is representation already at the inquiry from the Ontario government in terms of what roles that they had. However, again, going back to my previous point, this really is supposed to be a inquiry that is looking into the federal government's role in terms of invoking the federal government's Emergencies Act. So it really extends far beyond the scope that, and I suppose the case that the Premier is making is that he had no role in that, and therefore it's up to others to look into that and determine whether there was federal government overreach. You'll recall during the same period there was a significant protest as well here in Toronto around the Ontario legislature that lasted a total of about 12 hours. The province certainly had a much more significant role in the oversight of that. And I'm sure if there was an inquiry into what happened there, the Premier certainly would make himself a little bit more available to that one. But again, not the scope, and I think he has a pretty compelling argument to opt out of showing up to testify at this one.
We could not disagree more, Andrew. I think it's really unfortunate that the Premier is not standing up and talking about his role in all this. I mean, from an Ottawa perspective, for anyone living here in Ottawa, we didn't see the Premier during any of that. You wouldn't know that this city was in the province of Ontario during that time. I'm really, really disappointed that he and Sylvia Jones are not sitting in front of this committee or not voluntarily sitting in front of this committee to talk about their perspective on it. I mean, there was 3 levels of government here. The Premier only woke up, really, truly, from his snowmobile, only woke up from all of what was happening when things started to affect the pocketbook and started to affect in Windsor, which was really disappointing for people living in Ottawa. Jody, what's your take?
So I hear Andrew, and I think the Premier's strategy on this is a good one. I mean, everyone that testifies gets some mud thrown on them. But I completely agree with you in that, this was a national emergency mechanism that was implemented here in Ontario's in the nation. And it happened on Ontario territory. And, as much as it's a federal purview and stuff, we had our mayor testify. I'm not sure, but I imagine some NCC people may testify. It only makes sense that, the Premier and the Premier's office is represented at this. And, the voter in me is asking, well, why wouldn't he want to take his 5 minutes to say what his view was of such a situation that required such an extraordinary move by Parliament.
Mm-hmm. Be really interesting.
Yeah, and Sam, I just add on that. Look, that I don't think that your opinion is lost on the Premier. Quite frankly, you look at the results from the last provincial election across the province, and certainly Ottawa reflected quite a difference in opinion. And I do think, to your disappointment, the Premier and the Ontario PC Party wore a lot of what you're talking about, that frustration. And they, had the political consequence of that. The only incumbent PC MPP that lost in the province was in the Ottawa region, and so I do think that your comments are certainly reflected in the political realities that they saw back in June.
Mm-hmm, agree 100%. Let's talk a little bit about Remembrance Day. Today we had the pleasure of speaking with Stephen Clark, National Executive Director for the Royal Canadian Legion. Jody, I mean, it's not lost on me about how much Remembrance Day would mean to you. How are you going to be reflecting on this Remembrance Day in your own personal story, Jody?
So this year, I want to take my kids to the local Remembrance Day here in Orleans at the Orleans Legion, and make it about a family day for us, because the military is a big part of this family. My kid's mom is also a combat veteran. I had a hand in saving my life on the battlefield, actually. So we've had COVID, and, we've had all the kind of troubles that everyone else has had as a family over the last couple of years. And so to me, it's going to be a bonding with family time with my kids, and just to show them how important it is and what it means to them personally as Canadians.
Beautiful. Andrew, how are you going to be recognizing Canadians who sacrificed their lives and sacrificed all the incredible work that they've done to save this country?
Yeah, here in Toronto, we have a beautiful ceremony at Old City Hall. I try to go to that every year. I'll do the same. When I was up in Ottawa, I used to use a few of the days leading up to Remembrance Day, volunteering with the Legion, selling poppies there, because I do think, we always go through Remembrance Day and we end it with Flanders Fields and a commitment to remember them, and I think that's what's most important, which is when we take that commitment and when we reaffirm that commitment to say we will remember them. It extends beyond just Remembrance Day, right? It's more than 1.5 million Canadians in the First, Second World Wars, Korea, Afghanistan, and I try to use at least this time of year to see their heroism in moments of free speech and free expression. And sort of feel their sacrifice in the places that allow us to have democracy, and that's Parliament Hill, our legislative chambers, and really just live true to that commitment that we say every Remembrance Day, which is we will remember them.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That was lovely. I really appreciate having lunch today. It was a little bit spicy, but that's not a bad thing, guys. It's not
Never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing. Andrew Brander joining us, Vice President with Crestview Strategy, and Jody Middick, former City Councillor for Innis Ward. Thank you, guys. Hope you'll join us for lunch again.
Have a great week. Thanks, Sam.
And hope all of you stay with us for the business lunch right after the news. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired, and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Hey, I'm Picasso in Von Teef. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, November 1st. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Onime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it is partly cloudy, 13 degrees. And here's what's making news this hour. The first person taking the stand at the public inquiry looking into the use of the Emergencies Act last winter is Chris Barber, and he's doing that today. He is one of the leaders of the trucker convoy protest and says he got involved because he was fed up with the COVID-19 mandates. As he testifies, Barber is trying also to distance himself from the more volatile elements of the protest, saying they had issues with a previous post of another organizer, Pat King, talking about bullets, and says he never read the Memorandum of Understanding that discussed displacing the Trudeau government with a citizens committee. Barber also acknowledges he himself made racist posts on the internet, but says he's a changed person after the convoy. Pat King and Tamara Litch will take the stand later in the week. Starting today, Ontarians 6 months and older can start to receive a flu shot. You can book an appointment for the shot at your local pharmacy, healthcare provider, or public health unit. The province does recommend receiving the flu shot as we head into the cold months. OPH says if you are eligible, you can book your flu shot and COVID-19 bivalent shot at the same time. City News time is 12:32. I am Damilola Onime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's November 1st, and I know a lot of people in my friends network cannot wait to get on the hills and start skiing. We wanted to check in today with Bob Sutterman. Hi, Bob. How are you?
How you doing, Sam? I'm great.
Good to get connected. Bob, walk us through what hills are you involved with?
Mont Saint Marie and Camp Fortune.
So you are one busy guy.
These days, yes, very busy as we get both ski resorts prepped and ready for this winter, and that involves doing a lot of finishing touches on our snowmaking systems to get ready for the first cold day, which hopefully will come soon.
For sure. I wanted to invite you on the business lunch here on City News because I wanted to talk the business of skiing. I mean, this has obviously been, a challenging couple of years for many businesses. Was it challenging for ski resorts like yours?
Yeah, it was operationally challenging because we in Quebec we were dealing with reduced lift capacity, which meant longer lift lines because we're only allowed to load 2 people per chair instead of 4. And Mont Saint Marie doesn't have night skiing, but Camp Fortune does, and we were dealing with a curfew. We had a curfew at 8 o'clock, which meant we had to stop night skiing at 7 o'clock. So we could get people off the mountain and so they could get home.
For sure. And for those that aren't familiar with Camp Fortune and Mont Saint Marie, give us an idea of where you're located, Bob.
Well, right now I'm physically at Mont Saint Marie, which is located about 55 minutes north of Ottawa-Gatineau on the Autoroute number 5. And it's got 1,200 vertical feet, which makes it the highest ski resort in the region by at least double the height of any other resort in the region, and we have high-speed lifts. So the skiing's actually really good. You get the real sense of being at a mountain when you ski at Mont Saint Marie. And then Camp Fortune is located in Chelsea in the Gatineau Park, just about 15 minutes north of Parliament Hill.
Beautiful locations for sure. And the business of skiing, let's get into it, Bob. I mean, this is obviously you're dependent on weather in many ways, but of course you're making that snow. I'm assuming you're not making it yourself, Bob.
Well, yeah, I mean, snowmaking is absolutely critical and an integral part of our business, and the skiing in Eastern Canada at least couldn't survive without it. So although we do love natural snow, we absolutely depend on man-made snow. So all of our runs have snowmaking on them.
And how important is it for people to buy those passes seasonally from a business model perspective?
Well, yeah, I mean, buying a season's pass is the most affordable way to ski if you're a skier and you plan on skiing on a regular basis. It's part of your lifestyle in the wintertime. Season's pass is the way to go. So we start our season's pass drive in early September, and it goes till the end of September for the lowest price. Although you can buy a season's pass right now at either Mont Saint Marie or Camp Fortune, but it's going to cost a little bit more. But still, amazing value if you plan on skiing a lot.
For sure, absolutely. It seems it doesn't matter who I speak to here on City News. It could be, somebody managing healthcare workers, or it could be retail or hospitality. Everybody seems to have the same story. It's hard to attract talent. Is this the same in the ski business?
Well, yes, it's become a post-COVID problem. It's amazing that 3 years ago, pre-COVID, we really didn't have a problem attracting, people to our team, workers to help, at both our mountains. But this fall, it's proving to be a challenge. And, we're working hard to attract people, but it's more difficult than ever before. And, so the ski industry is not immune to the problems that are facing businesses all around the country, all around North America for that matter.
Is it young people typically in terms of seasonal work that are, maybe university students or young people that are taking those jobs, or is it across the board?
Well, Yeah, so Camp Fortune attracts a younger crowd because it's close to the city. It will attract, kids who are in high school, university. Mont Ste. Marie being further away, we attract a more mature worker. But it's a problem across the board for Mont Ste. Marie or Camp Fortune. We are actually trying to target our recruitment to people who have retired, who want to maybe work 1 or 2 days a week just to stay in the game, get a free season's pass for the winter, and to be, part of esprit de corps, part of, team spirit, where, because we do have a lot of social events for our staff as part of the fun of being working at Camp Fortune or Mont Ste. Marie. It's a lifestyle, and a lot of your friends, you'll meet a lot of new people and socialize with them. So we're trying to attract people for more than just a work experience, but for an overall lifestyle experience also.
Have we inspired someone today? I'm sure we have. Bob, if somebody's listening right now and they're thinking, hey, I want to work at Mont Ste. Marie, or I want to work at Camp Fortune, can they reach out to you directly?
They can certainly reach out to me directly, but it'd be better to they would reach me through contacting either info@campfortune.com or info@montstmarie.com, and I will see those emails for sure.
It's interesting. Last week, we connected at the Voskers, the Volunteer Ottawa Awards, and it was such an inspiring night to see all of the volunteering that's going on in this city and in the region. It really warmed the heart for sure. And you and I started talking about the volunteer group, which is the Canadian Ski Patrol, and boy, they're fundamental to the work you do as well, Bob.
Yeah, they sure are, and that was very fitting that that's where we would meet at the Voskers, and you're right. The Canadian Ski Patrol is vitally important to the ski industry in North America, and they play a huge role, at Camp Fortune and Mont Ste. Marie in patrolling the mountain and getting people off the mountain safely if they need help, and providing their knowledge and expertise to people who need information. So the Ski Patrol are a great group of people, and we sure like having them around.
Oh, they're fantastic, and I had the opportunity to work with a number of them over about 4 or 5 years, and I just learned so much about volunteerism through them as well, just committing so much time and energy and providing that vital service for sure. As a businessman, and definitely in times where, we hear the words inflation and we hear the words recession, are you nervous at all about this upcoming season?
I've been in the ski industry since 1989, so I've been through a lot over the years. The ice storm, there was a recession back in 1994, I think. And the things that scares me more than anything is the weather.
Right.
In 2015, we had the Green Christmas. Where we had one strip of snow coming down the mountain heading into Christmas holidays. Things like that scare me a lot more than, say, the inflation we have now and a slight interest rate uptick that we're seeing to combat that inflation. Historically speaking, though, interest rates are still quite low. And it's the weather that impacts my business more than anything.
Absolutely. And when you speak with other, operators of ski resorts in the area, is this still a popular destination? Is still a popular opportunity for people? And I think about, you mentioned, the holiday season, but all through December, January, February, March. Is it still as popular as it was?
Skiing is more popular than ever, and it's really where it should be. Because of COVID, we were one of the few industries to remain open. We were open throughout all of COVID. We weren't shut down, and because we're an outdoor activity, people flock to it. And so people who didn't ski, or skiing wasn't really part of their lifestyle, really got into skiing as a family, because it's a great family sport. Right. Mont Saint Marie is a great family area. So it actually brought a lot of people into the sport or back into the sport, because it's a great outdoor activity, as you know. Mm-hmm. And we were open during the pandemic.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm sending all the snow your way, Bob.
Please, and make sure everyone else is doing their snow dance, all your listeners.
For sure. Wish you all the best this season.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Bob Sutterman joining us from Mont Saint Marie and Camp Fortune. Bob certainly will be busy this upcoming snow season. We wish them all the best. And he was mentioning a couple things. They're looking for staff. So if you're looking for work, that's something definitely a unique position to have. Definitely an exciting one for sure. Lots of opportunities there. And obviously get that ski pass so you can ski all winter long. We're going to be coming back with a couple of great guests. Leah Resnick's going to join us, Director of Digital Museums Canada. And we're also going to spend some time with Susan Dennison. She's a franchise owner for Tim Hortons. We're going to be talking about those important hockey cards. Lots of great events coming up. Certainly has been a very busy day today. We're following lots of different stories. We know the Emergencies Act inquiry as well is still going on. I believe they're on a bit of a break right now. Chris Barber was testifying today. He was one of the main organizers of the so-called Freedom Convoy. Some interesting testimony coming from him today. We're going to be following that very closely. Lots of news for you. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll introduce you to a local singer-songwriter who has some exciting things happening. First of all, he just recently went to Nashville to perform. He won a contest of about 20,000 songs. He also has over 100,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. The Ottawa Food Bank will be here. They'll tell us about the increase in their services and food demand. And we'll introduce you to a couple of upcoming events here in Ottawa.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
I am Audrey. And I'm Leah. Leah inspired me to play hockey. The Warriors has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the Warriors allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Hi, my name is Arkantel and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks. And it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for being with us here on the Business Lunch on City News. We appreciate it very much. Leah Resnick is joining us. She's the director of Digital Museums Canada. Hi, Leah.
Hi.
Leah, I know nothing about this organization, so walk us through a little bit about your mandate.
Sure. We're administered by the Canadian Museum of History, and we're really an investment program for other museums and heritage organizations across Canada, and they can apply for funding for digital projects, so really websites and online exhibitions. And we've recently launched a free online course in partnership with Athabasca University, which is really aimed for museums, but anyone across Canada can access if they want to learn more about creating digital projects.
And because they'll live forever, right, Leah? I mean, that's the idea.
That's the idea. I mean, the internet's a funny thing. It's kind of got no end date. But yeah, the course is accessible to anyone.
So walk us through what we would learn by taking this course.
So really, how to build a website. What are the steps? What is a user experience? What is that user flow, that navigation? Also, what is accessibility? So Digital Museums Canada is very committed to accessibility, and accessibility on the web is extremely important. So how to create a website that meets those standards as well. And if you were a museum, how you might access funding from us, pointing you to resources that are available, really just best practices in this domain, which is recent kind of, for museums to be on board to have virtual exhibitions is a relatively new in the last 10 years kind of phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And in COVID, we really saw that everybody wanted to reach their audiences no matter where they were. So that's really the idea and the focus of the course.
100%. Leigh, let me ask you, you talked about the accessibility pieces. What are we looking for there? I know sometimes I notice, a small A and a large A at the top of the page indicating that I can make the font bigger, but it obviously goes beyond that, right?
Yeah, so we follow something called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is kind of the top tier standard for accessibility online. And it means that, 1 in 5 Canadians has some form of disability. And so it means that perhaps you can access a video with described audio, or it means that there's closed captions, or it means that there's alternate text, or it means, like you were saying, that you can increase the size of text and fonts and be able to zoom in. So, we really think that accessibility makes it more inclusive for everyone, and improves the experience of the website for everyone by focusing on accessibility.
And Leigh, if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, hey, I want to take this course, how can they reach out?
I would direct them to our website. We have it online, so it's focused. It lives on our website. And it's called Creating Engaging Online Experiences, an Introduction for Museum and Heritage Organizations. And I'll mention it's in English and French. Mm-hmm. And then there's a fully accessible HTML-only format. So really appeals and is available to anyone.
Wow, I learned a lot today. Thank you so much, Leah. I appreciate you joining us here on City News.
Thank you so much for having us. And I'll just mention that if you are a museum and you want to apply for funding, we have a call for proposals that closes December 1st. Excellent. And you can find out more on our website.
They have 1 month to apply. Fantastic. Thanks, Leah.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Leah Resnick joining us, Director of Digital Museums Canada. We wanted to check in today with Susan Dennison, franchise owner for Tim Hortons. My apologies. Hi, Susan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
How could I forget Tim Hortons, of course?
Of course.
Of course. Susan, I'm looking back to times we were together and you were in studio and you were dressed as a beautiful cookie.
I remember that was a bit before all this craziness started.
Before the craziness, for sure. You're always up to some great things. Susan, remind me what franchises you own of the Tim Hortons.
So we have the restaurant at 1150 Blair Road at the Gloucester Center, and then we also have the one in the village of Richmond, just south of the city. And they're sort of at two ends of town, but that's okay.
That's okay. Keeps you hopping for sure. And you're doing something really cool with the hockey cards.
Yeah, so across Canada, starting on November the 2nd and November the 9th, in our restaurants, selected stores are having a hockey card trading night. And it's where we invite our guests to come back with the hockey cards they've been purchasing over the last few weeks and be able to trade with other guests and, kids and grandpas and dads and moms and hopefully get the complete set. Which is something, any collector knows they would like to have.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So the twist this year, though, is that the store that has the most successful trading card night has the opportunity to win a visit from the Stanley Cup at next year's trading nights in 2023.
How fun is that?
Yeah. So we've sort of put our oomph behind the location in Richmond because the small town feel and the Junior B Royals are going to come out and give us a hand, and we've got a game of shinny going on, and we're just trying to create some fun and some sense of community that we've missed out on. So yeah.
And so what night is it happening in Richmond then?
So it's Wednesday, like tomorrow night, November 2nd, from 6 till 8 p.m. at the restaurant. And then Wednesday, November 9th, same 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay, both nights then.
That's right.
I don't know if you know, Susan, I'm actually moving to Richmond.
You are?
I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, it's a great community, small town feel with, close to all the amenities, so. Yeah.
And there's so many initiatives that Tim Hortons partakes in, but the hockey cards have really become something special. People really do look forward to it every year.
Yeah, it's very unique. Obviously, our founder, Tim Horton, was a hockey player, and we weave hockey throughout our products throughout the year. And currently, we have a great lineup of, merchandise, hockey-related, and we've got some Sen stuff. But the hockey cards are definitely something people look forward to every year. At the beginning of the NHL season.
But definitely, it's definitely a hit for sure. I can't even imagine how busy you would be with two franchises. Do you ever just stop and think, I'm just going to have a donut and a hot chocolate or a coffee?
Well, not so much the donuts. Coffee for sure. Definitely the coffee every day.
Sure. Oh, that's so funny. Have I ever told you my story about Tim Hortons?
Yes, tell us again. Yes.
Okay, so I think this is, of course, I think it's hysterical because it's my story, but I think it was a long time ago, and I think it was 2002. I was driving through a Tim Hortons. Sorry, I'm going to backtrack. That's not true at all. I was driving near a Tim Hortons, and there was a gentleman driving the other way through a Tim Hortons drive-through, and I was going through a Scotiabank drive-through. So you know how they sort of pass each other? It was the one in Barhaven. And I thought he waved at me, but he was actually just stretching. Anyway, I waved at him, and we ended up getting married 6 months later. So my drive-through, his drive-through the drive-through, ended at the altar. So what Tim Hortons did was that they put us on all the coffee cups and all the donut boxes, and it was a story that carried on for the 40th anniversary of Tim Hortons. So
wow.
So there you go. Isn't that wild?
That's great. That's a crazy story.
Well, it's so funny because a girlfriend and I just kind of bored one day. We decided to write the story to Tim Hortons. And I really didn't even tell my husband at the time that I was doing it. So I got home from work one day and he's like, by the way, we've received a call from Tim Hortons. Did you write them a letter? I'm like, maybe. So they flew us to Toronto and it was great. And it's amazing how many people, connected with us when that story went across Canada and into the States as well. It was amazing.
That's a great story.
It was amazing. We're no longer together, but the story definitely lives on for sure. Appreciate your time always, Susan. Good luck on the hockey card nights. I think that's a great initiative. Lots of fun for the community. And Tim Hortons is, beyond just a restaurant. You really do create community. So thank you, Susan.
that's what we're trying to do. And come say hi when you move to Richmond.
Don't you worry, I'll be there, my friend. Don't you worry. I won't be looking for a new husband though, but I'll come for a hot chocolate. Susan Dennison joining us, of course, and she's a franchise owner for 2 Tim Hortons locations, one in the Gloucester Centre and one in the beautiful village of Richmond. It has been an honor and a pleasure to spend time with you today. We have a great team that works on the Sam Laprade show, and of course, it includes Aaron and Noah and Alex, and they all work very, very hard on this show. We certainly appreciate it very much. The news of the day is going to be brought to you by Jason White and Danielle Bain. They're getting ready to bring that news to you, so I'm not going to stand in the way one more minute. Lock it in to City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.